Needless to say, the ureter, as it passes over psoas major, is related to the tips of the transverse processes of all of the lumbar vertebrae. Got that? The ureter, as it descends down on the psoas major, is related to the tips of the 5 transverse processes of the lumbar vertebra. So when you're looking at a planetary of the abdomen or ureteric stones, you look in that area along the tips of the transverse processes. And you know that the psoas major does arise from the tip of the transverse process. It's posterior on that. As it enters the pelvis, it passes over or is related to the bony element, to the sacroiliac joint. Yes, it's related to the sacroiliac joint. So you look over those transverse processes and tips, and then you look in relation to the sacroiliac joint, and then it directs, the ureter passes backwards. Remember, the pelvis goes backwards, so it goes backwards, laterally and downwards to the area of the ischial spine. Remember the ischial spine? So you look in that vicinity, and then from the ischial spine, it now covers forwards, anteriorly and downwards to the back of the bladder. And radiologically, what you look for is the pubic tubercle. So you see the bony reference point that I'm talking about, the tips of the transverse processes, the sacroiliac joint, the ischial spine, and then the pubic tubercle. That's the vicinity in which the ureter runs in relation to the radiological landmarks. Being a retroperitoneal structure, all of the structures of the gut and its mesentery will therefore lie anterior to the ureter. But in addition to that, it is crossed by a number of structures. Here we have the gonadal vessels and the ovarian, the testicular in the man. So the artery and the vein, the gonadal vein, are crossing it anteriorly in the abdominal part of its course. Now, when we put back the gut and its mesentery, I hope to show you those pictures. You'll have from the superior mesenteric artery, which is running here, it's running in this direction towards the right iliac fossa, remember? You'll have the right colic branches, right colic artery, going that way towards the ascending colon, and you'll have the iliacolic artery coming down towards the ileocecal junction. So it's crossed by that. Now, the ureter, even though it's retroperitoneal, when we make an abdominal transperitoneal approach to get at the ureter, you remember what procedure we have to do to get at the ureter? I told you last term and I asked in the exam. It's not here yet. Remember the ascending colon and the small bowel and its mesentery is all on top of this. And I told you on the lateral aspect of the paracolic button, you have to make an incision into the white line of throat. So you have to mobilize either the ascending on the right or the left, the descending colon, and lift the appropriate colon with mesentery and its blood supply. And then you can get into the retroperitoneum to get a ureter. However, when you do that, the ureter and the gonadal vessels they are normally loosely attached to the peritoneum, the retroperitoneum, by loose areolar tissue, ureter and the gonadal vessels. Yes? So when you resect up the right or the left colon with its peritoneum and its vessels, the ureter and the gonadal vessels will come up with the mesentery, and you have to gently push off the ureter and the gonadal vessels to locate them. In real life, the ureter looks somewhat more white than the yellow color there. And there's a longitudinal plexus of the arterial supply primarily along it. And it has the appearance of the barber sign. Now I know most of the guys don't go to the barber again. You know the barber sign, guys?
Yes, the red and blue.
Some do, some do. Mr. Fletcher was my barber in campus, you know?
What?
He will trim.
That's awesome.
He practices services. And all of us will save that barber money for other purposes. Sometimes when we mobilize the ureters, in spite of that, we are not even too sure. And what we do, when you pinch your muscle, it's contracted. If you pinch your bicep, you feel it contracted. We pinch the ureter with the forceps, and we see it contracting under our vision. So that is what we do to make sure that it is the ureter, because it is so easily damaged in the situation. Now, down in the pelvis, we talk about the importance of the uterine artery, and the cervix and the supravaginal, upper part of the vagina is at about this level. And the uterine artery, there's different books called different statistical numbers, but it's about a centimeter. Ureter is from the lateral aspect of the supravaginal, the fornix. You with me? When you push your finger into the vagina, its uppermost part where the cervix of the uterus comes out is called the fornix. And there's an anterior and posterior fornix in relation to the cervix, and there's the lateral. So when you push your finger into the lateral, they say this is the only time you can feel a stone in the ureter, in this region here. You with me? It's just a centimeter from the vagina, lateral vaginal fornix. The ureter is at this point. And you say why it is so easily damage the ureter when these guys are doing their hysterectomy, removing the whole uterus. Because they have to tie off the uterine artery, and they have to divide the upper vagina and then close up vagina. So the ureter is frequently damaged at that point. Here we put in the vessels of the large bowel. And here we have the right colic artery, the iliac colic. And you can all see crossing across the ureter, yes? And even sometimes the termination of the superior mesenteric artery will just about cross it, yeah? The genitofemoral nerve sheath is further here, and the ureter is crossed in there. That's on the right side. On the left side, it's crossed by the left colic artery and the sigmoid branches, also from the inferior mesenteric artery. This is where we, the general surgeons that deal with gut pathology, will damage the ureter. There are several branches here, and in diverticular disease with much inflammation and fibrosis, the ureter becomes stent up when you mobilize the colon and its mesentery. In cancer of the colon with metastasis, the ureter becomes obscured by the spread of the disease, and we will damage the ureter there. On the right side, the upper part of the ureter is overshadowed by the descending to the second part of the duodenum, and on the left side, it's just overshadowed by the origin of the jejunum there. Now, what is missing from this picture is the pancreas, which Mr. Gardner showed you, that runs across the body of the pancreas runs across the left kidney into the arms of the duodenum. Remember? And he showed you the splenic artery, and the splenic vein is there, but just to the left of the ureter, it's not shown in these pictures, just to the left of the ureter will be the inferior mesenteric vein going up the joint of into the splenic vein. That's important left lateral feature, okay, of the left ureter is the inferior mesenteric vein. Needless to say, the big vena cava is to the left of the right ureter there. So I'm showing you the important relationships there. Yes? And the ureter is damaged by the surgeons that deal with the gut, particularly colon cancers. And this is the commonest site of sigmoid colon there. I've damaged it one time, but we recognize it and repaired it, the ureter. The gynecologists will damage it when they are dividing the vagina, like it in the ureter. I mean, when dividing and like it in the uterine artery. So that's 2 points. In the first diagram, we see this should be the ovarian artery, and vessels there and then there. The ovarian fossa where the ovary should be, right? This is the third site in which the gynecologist will damage the ureter. When they're dealing with ovarian pathologic cancers and what have you, with much fibrosis and extension of the malignant process, when they pull up on the pedicle, peritoneal pedicle, which is called the infundibular pelvic ligament, surgery will tell you more about that pretty soon. They run in a fold of peritoneum called the infundibular pelvic ligament. When they are ligating the vessels there, the ureter is often pulled up in the process, and they will damage the ureter there. Okay? Now in your books, apart from being 10 inches 25 centimeters long, they commonly, the anatomists divide the ureter into abdominal portion there and a pelvic portion there. Some have even divided into three: the abdominal, pelvic, and the mural or intravesical part. The ureter passes through the bladder, yes, before entering it. Passes through about 2.5 centimeters there. And the ureter can be damaged at that point. So abdominal, pelvic, and the mural or intravesical part of the ureter. Another division, more surgeons now, is into the upper, from its origin to the inferior pole of the kidney. Yes. That's the upper, and the remaining part is the middle, and then the pelvic part. This division now is related to its arterial blood supply, which I will show you. The upper and the pelvic part of the arterial supply to the ureter are pretty good, but the middle part is a little bit impaired, as it is. And when we're doing surgical approaches, we can approach the upper and middle part by a retroperitoneal approach. Don't worry about those long incisions. That's what the patient sees. The patient does not see what's inside. When there are these big malignant tumors of the kidney, to get it out for the patient's survival, we have to make these generous incisions. Sometimes we even have to enter the pleural cavity, the so-called thoracoabdominal incision, to deal with the pathology, yes? Mr. Gardner doesn't have to take out these things, you know? But when you have to deal with these big tumors, you see we have to make big incisions. And they say big surgeons make big incisions. Little surgeons make small incisions. but that's not totally true. I never, because they all fall asleep at about the stage.
That's true.
You know, they have the alumni thing, the UWI Alumni Medical Alumni Association. And I personally am not too enthusiastic about the past members, because the anatomy department